As you start to scale up your Facebook advertising, increasingly what you're going to want to do is focus on reach. That means influencing as much people as possible over the longest duration that you're trying to build your brand for. The challenge that you're going to run into when you do this is the placements. The temptation for these advertising platforms is to sell you what we call junk inventory. So, selling you spaces that will never get noticed, will never get processed, and people will never remember your ad. So when you're doing something like conversions or lead generation, it doesn't really matter where your placements are. So you can just go with the automatic recommended placements. You can see it here as Advantage Plus. But as you move more and more into brand marketing, you're going to want to manually select the spots that are actually going to get noticed, because here you're optimizing for reach, and you don't have the check and balance there of was a lead generated or not. In which case you can actually trust the Facebook algorithm, but you can't so much with something like brand awareness or reach. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you some research, and I want you to take this with a grain of salt, because when we look at research, we have to be very skeptical based on who's sponsoring it, because all too often what happens is the outcome is the result that the researcher wanted, or they were trying to prove a point, they were trying to sell something. But let's just take this at face value for now to at least open your mind and be skeptical of the ads. So here we have on Twitter this gentleman saying that we need a better digital advertising ecosystem. 85% of digital ads get less than 2.5 seconds of attention required to enter the memory. So memory is really what we're trying to do when we're doing long-term, broad-based, broad reach advertising on Facebook. We want people to remember our brand, because most people are not going to buy today. Most people are not going to buy tomorrow. In business to consumer, a typical product that's bought frequently might still only be purchased 2 times a year, or a very frequently bought product like margarine 8 times a year, which is still not a lot. Coca-Cola, a heavy buyer is considered somebody that buys 3 or more times a year, which really isn't that much. So what that means is that when we advertise, we're primarily interested in people that are going to buy in the future and far into the future. And that requires memory. And to get into people's memory, we have to get attention. And this person's arguing that 2 seconds of attention is not enough to enter memory. So this is based on eye tracking research. We can see the data here. So this is the kind of thing you need to keep in mind when you're deciding on the placements that you're going to do. Is that little ad that you see in Facebook Marketplace going to get enough attention to enter memory? Maybe you're going to want to focus more on the mainstream Facebook stream, for example. So we're also thinking about creative. What kind of creative are we making? Is it actually getting attention? So doing something like a big splash. And I want to show you an example of that. This is an ad that I saw for MailChimp. I happened to see it on LinkedIn, but this could just as easily have been a Facebook ad. In fact, it probably is a Facebook ad. But what they do is they have this picture zoomed in on a cat's eyes, which is very attention grabbing. And then the cat's image flips around in a circle. So it's very eye-catching. It's very bold. It gets your attention. And that's really what we're fighting for with marketing creative, is let's get attention, because most advertising basically gets ignored. And then once you have people's attention, then we can think about how to embed ourselves in people's long-term memory. And this also has implications in terms of the types of ads that you create. So something like a video will have much more chance of being able to enter people's memory, having a longer attention focused on the ad, and you're also able to work with much more gimmickry to get that kind of attention that's needed. So let's take a look again at some additional research to look at attention. So attention gained by different media. We see here, based at least on this limited research, that television, especially with the larger televisions, has a very high attention. We move down to YouTube, can also have very high attention with the no skip ads. Progress down to Instagram, and you can see Facebook here a little bit towards the bottom. Specific types of Instagram ads are getting less attention than Facebook, and then we have mobile and desktop. In my experience, one of the placements you really need to control for is mobile apps. Mobile apps are largely just garbage placements. So I noticed like really high click-through rates, but Nobody's buying, nobody's interacting, nobody's converting because of those clicks. They're just clicking by mistake, potentially bots, something like that. Now here's some additional research to show what the active attention seconds are. Facebook 1.7 seconds, Instagram 2.2 seconds, Twitter 3.2 seconds, and YouTube 2.7 seconds. So one of the implications here may be that Instagram is definitely a placement that you're going to want to go with. Don't just limit yourself to Facebook.